Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday morning service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of San Miguel de Allende. Welcome to all of you joining us today, wherever you are, whatever your religious background, or lack of one, or whoever you love. My name is Judy Rosenthal. I'm a member of the Fellowship's Social Action Committee, and I'll be your service leader today. We invite you to look in today's order of service for announcements of activities. You can also go to our website at UUFSMA.org for full information on the fellowship. An announcement. You may have seen one of the many invitations sent out by the Committee on Ministry inviting you to participate in small group meetings in September. These are to share information and hear your opinions and ideas about professional ministry in our fellowship and its future. Many groups have filled and more have been added. The chat box has the email for Denise Galipeau, who will help you sign up. And there is also a link to the invitation with full information on the purpose of the meetings and how they will be run. We want to hear from you about the ministry and hope you will plan to join us soon. Another announcement. This is sort of an emergency announcement because this happens today. This is from UU the Vote, from Reverend Kelly Clement, the Social Justice Minister of the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. The Supreme Court decision on the Texas abortion ban means an end to Roe versus Roe v. Wade. Let's gather tonight for a vigil, to grieve, to hear a few speakers, some music, some small groups, a time to bear witness to this horror with each other. There will be other ways to organize and plan and to plan next steps, but our community and our faith are strong enough to hold us as we let it all in and let it all out. See the chat box for a link to information and registration, or contact Trish Snyder. Finally, I want to mention our breakout discussions after the service. They are great places to reflect on today's message with old and new friends. Just stay connected after the postlude music ends, when you will be randomly assigned to a room. Then you can accept the assignment. And now we go to Dr. Bonney McDowell for an important message from our COVID-19 task force.
Good morning. I'm Bonney McDowell, a member of the Fellowship's board and of our COVID-19 task force. And I add my welcome to all of you joining us today. Did you have a chance to read the letter from the UUA president about UU congregations and COVID? Dan sent it out this week. She reminded us that the Delta variant has become the dominant type of COVID around the world, and it is more contagious than the earlier types were. While those of us who are fully vaccinated are fairly well protected against illness resulting in hospitalization and death, we can still catch and transmit COVID, and we could get seriously ill in the process. In light of this, the task force continues to advise thoughtful consideration of your risks of exposure to COVID. Please use well-fitting masks whenever you're in public spaces, especially indoors. We know that the Mexican population overall has only a 25% rate of full vaccination. Their vaccination program is now behind its original schedule because of supply issues. So we can't predict when this situation will improve. As frustrating as this is to all of us, we must urge you to continue to be careful. Also, as you may have noticed this week, the COVID-19 SMA Facebook group and the COVID screening team in San Miguel have both run out of steam. They're exhausted and have chosen to stop working. Both these volunteer groups have given extraordinary help and information to our community for the past 18 months. We're extremely grateful for all their service. And now we have to continue without their help. We can no longer call Kate Greenaway or Joey Merrifield with our concerns. So what do we do? Well, each of us needs to have a real connection with a personal physician, so there's someone to contact if we have a question or feel like we're getting sick. The task force believes strongly that vaccination is the best protection, and we urge you to work with a doctor who also believes that. There are a few in SMA who do not, but most do. Testing is still available. Care for COVID will have to come through your own physician. If you have any symptoms which might be COVID, we urge you to get tested and contact your own doctor. There are treatments which can help, but they need to be started promptly. We can all help each other right now by encouraging anyone we know who's not vaccinated to do so at the next opportunity. We can help each other connect with trusted physicians so we are all prepared to take good care of ourselves. We can help each other remember to follow precautions and limit our risks of exposure. Please stay safe, my friends. And now it's a pleasure to welcome Daniela Franco and her daughters Aisha and Sienna.
Thank you. Good morning. A book is made from a tree. It is an assemblage of flat, flexible parts, still called leaves, imprinted with dark, pigmented squiggles. One glance at it, and you hear the voice of another person, perhaps someone dead for thousands of years. Across the millennia, the author is speaking, clearly and silently, inside your head, directly to you. Writing is perhaps the greatest of human inventions, binding together people, citizens of different epochs who never knew one another. Books break the shackles of time, proof that humans can work magic. Carl Sagan. Let's try this. Let's all join together in singing hymn number 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky.
Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children ask the reasons why, in our lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between, to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high, spirits joining as we fly, to touch the earth, to the sky. Good morning. I'm Dan Neuspiel, the president of your fellowship, and I add my greetings to you this morning. Please join me and Diana Amaya in reciting our spoken covenant, which should appear on your screen. We respect the interdependent web of life and work for a just and peaceful world. We encourage the search for truth and meaning, strive for compassion in our relationships, and seek values that will benefit our lives and the lives of others. This is our covenant.
Respetamos todos los estilos de vida dentro de su red interdependiente y trabajamos por un mundo justo y pacífico. Alentamos la búsqueda de la verdad y la comprensión total. Nos esforzamos por mantener compasión en nuestras relaciones y buscamos valores que beneficien nuestras vidas y las vidas de los demás. Este es nuestro convenio.
Good morning. I'm Jurgen Ahlers, and I serve on your board of directors. We're a caring, sharing, and very active covenantal community. We extend love and joy, and yes, also profound concerns within as well as beyond our fellowship. And so now we enter a very sacred time in this morning's service where we share and reflect on our joys, our sorrows, and our concerns. If you have a joy or concern that you would like to share this morning, please do so by typing it into the chat box below. And if in the future, perhaps next Sunday or any Sunday for that matter, if you have a joy or concern you would like to share, please send it by email to our minister, Tom Rossiel. The first candle that I'd like to light this morning is one of joy. John Simsarian is making remarkable recovery on his knee surgery. And he's living right now with Caroline in his home in Vermont. And he's saying that this rehabilitation is almost like a full-time job. We certainly look forward in not too distant future to welcoming John and Carolyn back to San Miguel. My next candle is a concern, but more importantly, a prayer with Becky Langrel, who is back in the States, bringing her exceptional loving presence to a cherished family member. Embracing the interdependent web of life, we light the next several candles, beginning with the continuing suffering of so many Afghans who have experienced multiple decades of continuous warfare and now, with rapid acceleration, are facing the dire uncertainty of threat of life and limb. We light the next candle, realizing the climate clock is ticking for the overwhelming suffering of people wherever they are in the US or around our precious planet, who are directly confronted with the life-threatening disasters caused by the mounting climate crisis. Our next candle is one of concern in regard to the continuing COVID crisis, particularly the aggressive Delta variant and its subsequent threat, confusion, political posturing, and misinformation, all of which only destabilizes and prolong our collective health everywhere. I light the next candle that expresses perhaps a combination of joy and concern. It's for the plentiful rain that we've been blessed with this year here in San Miguel. After several years of relatively arid, rainy seasons, but enough already. And finally, I light this candle for all the joys and concerns that, although not expressed, remain in our hearts. For all these, now we pause for a musical meditation by Paula to another one of Robert Schumann's piano poetic works for meditation, namely from his scenes of childhood or the Kinderzählen.
This fellowship proudly supports 12 NGOs that provide healthcare, scholarships, and education to our deserving Mexican neighbors. One of these NGOs is Libros Para Todos, which was founded by the Unitarian Susan Newlist in 2013 as a community project to help children learn to love reading. On a shoestring budget, Libros Para Todos has spread the love of reading to hundreds of children in 12 rural Guanajuato communities in the municipalities of San Miguel and Dolores Hidalgo. They also provide workshops for teachers and parents and lend mobile libraries to remote communities. Here is a quotation by Angel. He's the little boy on the left there, who during the last 5 years has attended 4 Big Reads events. They are connected with the San Miguel's Writers Conference and 1 summer camp. He's now 10 years old. He says, "Hello, my name is Angel, and today I'll tell you how Libros Para Todos has helped me. This association gives books to people who don't have money for books so that we can all read. This has helped me realize things, understand who I am, and learn what family is and will be, united. And I've also realized that everywhere in the world, there will always be someone with me. We can't all be writers, but we can imagine and do extraordinary things. Your generosity today will help this fellowship support the work of Libros Para Todos and help young readers like Angel experience the life-lifting experience of reading. The offering will now be collected and most gratefully received." Today, for International Literacy Day, our speaker will talk about the superpowers of books. My own life has revolved around books and education because of two women, an elementary school librarian who told me to read Jane Eyre, and a charismatic high school English teacher who insisted to my parents that I should go to university. Because of them, I eventually became an English professor myself. Daniela Elena Franco will speak about her work as director of the nonprofit organization Libros Para Todos, as well as the transformative power that books have had in her life recently. 3 superpowers of books stand out to her: empathy, comfort, and change. Daniela is a Mexican-American who grew up in a bicultural and bilingual home in the United States, in Washington, California, and Wisconsin, and who now lives in Atotonilco with her family. For many years, her 2 daughters were the youngest UUers. They even learned to crawl during our services. Aisha and Sienna are now 9 and 10 years old. It's a small world. Daniela's mother, Katie Franco, and I both taught at the university in Fresno, California. Katie was in the Spanish department while I taught English literature and women's studies. Her daughter, Daniela, has a master's in international policy studies with a focus on international human rights from the Middlebury Institute, and also a master's degree in business administration from the Querétaro campus of Monterrey Tech. We are honored to have Daniela Franco speak today.
Good morning. Thank you everyone for joining me today. I'm happy to be here two-dimensionally. I look forward to seeing you all in person again and being greeted by Jim Harper and hearing Paula play the piano and Trisha's purple hair and eating Nora's cookies and lemon squares. It'll be so sweet we can all meet together again at the Aldea. And until then, here we are. So when I was asked to speak today about books, reading, and the work I do promoting reading, I first thought, what can I possibly tell this group of highly educated people, including some authors, about the importance of reading that they don't already know? And what I came up with is that I can share with you about the work I do with Libros Para Todos and what I call the 3 superpowers of books. Now, there may be many more superpowers of books that you know about, but today I'm going to talk about the 3 that I know to be true. Before COVID, I led a very busy life. Every hour was mapped out: classes, chores, committees, social engagements. I was very happy, but also very, very busy. And then suddenly everything stopped. No work, no school, no lunch dates. I spent several months at home with my 2 daughters, my father, who had happened to be visiting us and then got stuck in San Miguel, and my partner Mick would visit almost every day. And we no longer set alarm clocks. In fact, we didn't really need clocks. We went on nature walks, we cooked, we slowed down, and we read lots of books. Lots and lots of books. With the kids, we would read Nancy Drew, Famous Five, a lot of the classics, Phantom Tollbooth. And I read more in those first few months of lockdown than I had in the previous several years. Though I was stuck at home, I went to faraway places, different times, and I met a lot of characters. Has it ever happened to you that when you finish a good book, you still have what I call a book hangover, where for several days afterwards, your mind is still in between the pages of that book? You know you've read a good book when you miss the people in the book, like they were your friends. And sometimes I would imagine myself as a character in the story while I was reading it, and I would think about what I would do or say. Last year, when I was reading The Fixer by Bernard Malamud, I imagined myself as a prison worker who would sneak treats and words of encouragement to the protagonist, for example. Books are powerful, and this leads us to superpower number 1, empathy. Reading gives us some place to go when we have to stay where we are. How important has that been for this past year and a half? Our worlds expand. We can vicariously be someone else and to experience a greater range of this humanity than what our everyday lives can sometimes offer. We can be other people, and that, in turn, develops empathy. Empathy is a tool for building people into groups, for allowing us to function as more than self-obsessed individuals. Though I was anxious about the state of the pandemic, about people getting sick, on a personal level, it was a time of sweetness. Life slowed down, reminded us of the basics, family, love, and to be a human being, not just a human doing. I'm forever grateful for 2020 because it ended up being the last year I spent with my father, who passed away in April of 2021. Those months of lockdown with him, my daughters, and my partner I will cherish forever. Coincidentally, or strangely, when my father passed away to cancer, I was reading Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. She writes about the death of her husband, John Donne, and eventually her daughter passed away as well. It's a very candid and thoughtful reflection about death and grief. Before the death of my father, I really thought grief was just deep sadness. So I was surprised that so many other emotions came over me in the hours, days, weeks, and now months since his departure. I found that Didion shed light on one of the most surprising aspects of grief, that of disbelief. She writes, "Yet I was myself in no way prepared to accept this news as final. There was a level on which I believed that what had happened remained reversible. That was why I needed to be alone. I was thinking as small children think, as if my thoughts or wishes had the power to reverse the narrative." These two excerpts really struck a chord with me because I still feel a degree of disbelief, like he is not really gone, like I could still call him. When I went to the U.S. consular office to file a death certificate, I was asked to submit his passport. And when I watched him punch holes in it, this huge wave of emotion came over me and the thought, but how is he going to travel now? It's absurd, of course. So when I read Didion's experience about losing her husband in The Year of Magical Thinking, which refers to a year of thinking that he isn't really gone, that he could return, it rang true for me. I realized my experience is not unique, and there is comfort in that. I'm not really alone. So many people reached out to me and offered words of condolences. I felt very loved, and yet I experienced grief so deeply, and I felt very alone in my grief. While books had allowed me to leave my quarantine and experience a rich life, now books offered something else to me. Soon after my father's death, I read Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's book called Notes on Grief, about the loss of her father. She writes, "Grief was a celebration of love. Those who could feel real grief were lucky to have loved." And I thought, wow, grief is not just sadness, it is an expression of love. And the fact that I am experiencing deep grief means I have had deep love in my life, and isn't that beautiful? Deep grief comes from deep love. And I'm grateful to have had that deep love in my life. This brings us to superpower number 2. An understanding that we are not ever really alone in our experiences. There is comfort in the shared experience. Since 2015, I have been director of a very small but very active and mighty nonprofit called Libros Para Todos. The mission is to inspire children to read and to love reading. We work in mostly rural communities, but also some low-income urban neighborhoods. We work with children ages 4 to 18, but we focus on ages 9 to 12 because that is the age where habits are easily formed. And developing a lifelong habit of reading not only helps them receive superpowers 1 and 2, but also superpower number 3, to be a change maker. The ability to imagine a world differently, a better world. The science fiction writer Neil Gaiman writes, "We all, adults and children, writers and readers, have an obligation to daydream. We have an obligation to imagine. It is easy to pretend that nobody can change anything, that we are in a world in which society is huge and the individual is less than nothing, an atom in a wall, a grain of rice in a rice field. But the truth is, individuals change their world over and over. Individuals make the future, and they do it by imagining that things can be different." Books are tools that sharpen our imagination. They provide creative possibilities, and they give wings to our dreams. This is a power that we want the children of Mexico and the world to have as they face very real challenges, such as poverty, climate change, prejudice, structural inequality. Libros Para Todos accomplishes this mission through a variety of different projects. We have a big read event, which I think many people know about, where we find a great book and we distribute it to hundreds of children in different communities. And they have about 6 weeks to read that book, and then we bring the author to visit them. We also host workshops for educators, and we'd like to thank the UU in particular for always supporting that project. And we have 5 mobile libraries that change communities every few months. And there's a creative writing and art summer camp. And we have volunteers that help kids that are falling behind in school by going to work with them one-on-one. During the pandemic, we did food relief for families that had lost their main source of income. We made a podcast, which you can find on Spotify. It's children reading stories that they wrote for other children. It's called Colorín Colorado. And we did a writing competition, a stay-at-home summer camp for 95 children, where we distributed bags with different activities that they could do at home. And although it's hard to measure the impact of our work, we feel greatly encouraged by feedback from some of the kids. After the first day of camp in 2018, one 10-year-old boy told us that it had been the best day of his life. Another kid, an 11-year-old boy from a rough neighborhood of San Miguel, he acted like he thought our summer camp was stupid on the first day, and he made fun of the activities and other kids. And he interrupted and teased, and quite honestly, I found it very difficult, very annoying. But he came back the next day. In fact, he walked by himself to camp, and it wasn't that close. And then he came back the following day, and he wrote a hard story about a family torn apart by drugs. The last day of camp, he gave me a hug. I don't know if that change will survive the challenges he faces in his life, but I know it was a good experience for him, and I hope so. One year, we did a big read event with high school students. Now, I was hesitant because I have always worked with kids. I love kids. Teenagers intimidate me. and when we distributed the book, which was Reina Grande's book, I think, maybe you remember, one of the adolescents told us flatly not to bother, that they weren't going to read it. I felt so hopeless. But our team kept at it, and when we returned 6 weeks later, those same teenagers embraced Reina. They gave her the stories that they had written, and with tears in their eyes said, "Your book meant so much to me. Thank you." That day was probably the best day of work I have had with Libros Para Todos in the 6 years I've been director, and in the 8 years that I've been part of the organization. We need to work harder now than ever before. The pandemic is further exacerbating the gap between socioeconomic groups. The dropout rate at low-income schools has increased due to lack of connectivity and the loss of income to those families. While upper-income families easily can do online schooling, tutors, summer camps, etc., lower income families do not have those same opportunities. And the truth is that I'm very worried that Mexico will become further polarized. It is not acceptable that children have such starkly different opportunities. I want to thank the UU congregation for always believing in this project, in education, and in supporting the community. You know that not everything is as pristine and beautiful as it is in Central. There's a different reality just 10 minutes away. I invite you to familiarize yourself with that reality if you haven't already. Volunteer. Write to me. Join us. And before I conclude, I ask you, can you remember the first book that moved you? The first book that made you cry? The book that you couldn't put down? The book that sparked a love of reading in you or gave you a big book hangover? We want children everywhere to have those experiences. We want them to feel the superpowers of books. Children are curious and creative by nature. It is our job to keep that curiosity alive. We must keep reading to children even after they learn how to read for themselves. We must make sure that there are books in their schools, in their homes, and libraries close by. And in closing, I just want to share one of my favorite quotes with you that feels very relevant at this time. Let us pick up our books and our pens. They are the most powerful weapons. Thank you so much.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
For our closing words, we would like to share a poem by the celebrated children's author, Shel Silverstein. Listen to the mustn'ts, child. Listen to the don'ts.
Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me.
Anything can happen, child. Anything can be.
I close my eyes and I can see a world that's waiting up for me, that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home.
They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design.
With every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head, a million dreams that keep me awake. I think of what the world could be, vision of the one I see, a million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build. Every room inside is filled with things from far away. Special things I compile, each one there to make you smile on a rainy day.
They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say we've lost our minds. I don't care if they call us crazy. Run away to the world that we design.
Brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake.